I have to say a few thank yous first and foremost before I get stuck into talking about the great man Walter Cassidy. I'd like to thank, on behalf of myself and Noel, the gallery for having us back again after the last episode a year ago. I'd like to thank Tony Murray for the excellent foreword he contributed to the book. And Mr. Gavin Corker, who can't be with us tonight, for doing a wonderful introduction in the book. I'd also like to thank Donald from Come Here to Me, Dublin Bob, who will be talking after me once I get out here. And our friend Peter O'Connell, who's not here tonight for his sound advice. And of course, Wally himself. On behalf of Wally, I'd like to say thanks to Rabble and the Come Here to Me Dublin blogs. I'd like to say thank you to his brother Stephen for the website, to his dad for instilling the idea of recording history, David Monaghan for the test prints, Paranoid Visions for all their entrance into gigs, and particularly Deco for his lyrics which inspired the title of the book. All those punks and skinheads who let Wally kick on their floor over the years. Sean Kelly, good friend, also a photographer, who he wants to thank for walking all those streets and cooking and taking all those shots. And another good friend of Wally's, Mr. Paul Joe Farrell, for introducing him to street photography. Also, I'd like to thank Tony O'Shea, who isn't here tonight, for being a huge influence on Wally. Another great man that we're pretty fond of. I'd like to thank Laura James for her work with the negatives, and Orla Fitzpatrick for her proofreading of the book. Last but not least, Niall would like to thank, or Wally would like to thank myself and Niall. Niall for another wonderful job in creating the book and putting it together in such a marvellous way. And as Wally says himself for putting that flyer in Spin City Records some years ago, which he came across, and without that being there, and where were you, I guess, I wouldn't be here now, he wouldn't be here now, and Wally's book wouldn't be here. But I think the whole thing of having the photographs and getting Wally's photographs together almost didn't happen because he was a terrible man to track down. Because when I was sourcing photographs for the book from the early 80s, Wally's name came up constantly with a lot of those punks and skinheads from the late 80s, early 90s, and a lot of them said if you find Wally Cassidy, or Wally Snap Cassidy, as a lot of them affectionately refer to him as, you'll find an archive documenting that whole area, that whole scene. I couldn't find Wally for years. I asked around and his name didn't come up, no one knew where it was, etc, etc. I heard somewhere in the pipeline that he'd sold all his equipment and his cameras, and he'd moved to Athlone and was working somewhere up there in his spare time. He was fishing and tending some herb gardens, etc, etc. So I'd kind of more or less given up at that stage, and I'm sitting down one day going through the email, and I should do a check in the junk mail folder, and there was an email just titled Photographs. And I opened it and I read it, and it simply said, "Are you still looking for photos?" Wally. So we exchanged emails and we met one afternoon, one crisp Tuesday afternoon, outside the GPO, and we stand there and we're back against the wall, getting a bit antsy and saying, "Where is Wally? What's he look like?" And I walked out between the pillars and watched the road and walking up and down on Bond Street. And caught me eye, I got this figure coming across the North Earth Street. Black hat, black goatee beard, black jacket, black jumper, black jeans, black Doc Martens and a black jacket. I kind of knew this as well. And Wally introduced himself to me. We had a great chat. We talked probably for only about 20 minutes, and he pulled out this old red and black 10x8 photograph box and showed me a couple of 10x8 photos, a couple of smaller photos and a few test prints, etc., contact sheets. And I was looking through them going, "Oh yeah, that's pretty cool, that's really good. Well, there's a big one, some Carmody on, I'll be on that one there." Had a look through, it was cool, and I thought, well, that's good, there's a few good ones in there. I was just getting ready to say goodbye and leave, and he turned around, plucked out his bag, this binder, which contained probably 500 negatives, which were automatically named and dated with what they contained. And I thought, how the hell are we going to get through this? Because we were working on a lot of other photographs at the time, trying to get them, trying to scan them and that. And even just sitting down and recording them was very time consuming. So I thanked Wally. He just says, use what you want, but please make sure you get them back to me. So I did that, got them back to him in one piece, which was great. But the time it took us to get through those negatives, I'll never forget. So I remember we went, sat down, and myself and I'll looked through various ones, and it was so time consuming. I had to go and borrow a light box, which turned out the only one I could get was probably about this size. That was huge and ridiculous. But I covered it in negatives and began to look through them. And although the punk stuff was really interesting, the youth culture and the like, it was these other photographs, the street photography in Smithfield and around the streets of the city, which was jumping out and being just as interesting and just as good. So when I think I went down and bought a scanner and to help Niall out with his scanning and that, and we plowed through them and got them done in a few months. And I remember sitting down at one time and it was bad enough, it was a headache trying to sort what youth culture material we wanted to use along with the Wally and while we were looking at that, the other stuff as well we were going through, I remember saying, and Niall agreed that this would someday make a great book, if we could ever get around to it. And due to the success of where you have, and we're here now. And so I'd like to thank the great man himself for being himself, wherever he's gone. And just hope you enjoy the book. From the wonderful Come Here To Me blog to say a few words and officially launch the book. Thank you.
I suppose I have two confessions here to make before I start. One is that I'm not a photographer. I've never owned a camera that's worth more than €80. And that camera is attached to a mobile phone. I am an historian though. And my second confession is that I was actually born in the year where this book begins, in 1989. That doesn't mean you're all very old, it means that I'm very young, so don't worry. Come Here To Me is a history website about Dublin, been running for a couple of years now, which aims to tell the social history of Dublin very much from below. Some of that is very serious, looking at things like the 1913 lockout. Some of it is more light-hearted, looking at stuff like the history of nightclubs, like Bubbles, or the original Blades gigs in town. And we find with a lot of stuff, it's like the GPO in 1916, everyone was there, allegedly. For historians trying to write about Dublin, there's a lot of tools. There's newspaper archives, there's the National Archives, there's every kind of archive under the sun. But the written word only ever gets you so far in any particular story. And for historians, photographs are a real goldmine. And we really have gone to town on Wally Cassidy's archive in recent years. Wally has a tendency to pop up in my own life at the most unusual moments. A few weeks ago, I was standing in the queue at Marks and Spencer's waiting to buy milk. I don't always buy milk at Marks and Spencer's, but I was in a hurry. I thought the special branch had followed me into the shop. There's a man standing in the queue flashing away with Wally Cassidy. Last week at my day job, I was giving a walking tour of the school kids, and I might as well have been talking in Chinese. They really couldn't give a fuck. I was going over to Halfpenny Bridge, explaining the history of Halfpenny Bridge, and again, this mysterious character, Wally Cassidy, appeared and took my photo. Last year I was running around the electric picnic on the Sunday, the messy day, and this man appeared once again in a Radiators from Space t-shirt and took my picture. Nowadays there's a million photographs of you on Facebook and you wish 900,000 of them were never taken. But the three that Wally's taken of me are three of my favourite photographs. The period examined in Wally's book in the context of history is basically yesterday. In Ireland though, it feels like a million years ago. Forget that 1989 to 1993, this was a time before provisional IRA ceasefire. There was a time when militant groups like SPUC, the Society for the Protection of Fucking Mentalists, were able to organise massive demonstrations on the streets. There's a moment in time in Dublin history, a moment in time in street politics that is captured brilliantly in this book. And my favourite images that Wally has taken are the images of protest and confrontation, motivated by issues as diverse as 6 counties and the role of religion in public life. When I was flicking through it, a few images that I really loved. The 1990 clash between Ireland and England. And as a League of Ireland fan, as someone who has a very morbid interest in hooliganism, which is funny for a St. Patrick's Athletic fan because we wouldn't buy the Harry Christians. But there's great images from 1990 of when England were in town and they played Ireland and it ended in a 1-1 draw. And there were over 100 arrests on O'Connell Street when English soccer fans clashed with a free Desi Ellis protest. And what a recipe for disaster that was. A bit like taking the Love Ulster March through a construction site. As someone with a great interest in the history of football in this city of Ireland, I knew very little about this event. This was always a footnote to me. But Wally captures it perfectly and he really brings it to life. I think the images of youth subculture are very, very important as well. And I really loved Gary's book, Where Were You? And when they did an exhibition of that book in the Little Museum of Dublin, it was funny because people were coming in and photographing themselves beside pictures of themselves. So decades ago. And I think that's happened here again. I think that's wonderful. It captures a moment. Where are the people that are photographed in Wally's work? Sadly, some of them are gone. Tom McGinty, the Dice Man, for example, one of my favourite pictures Wally ever took was of the Dice Man. There's a plaque just across the street that commemorates him. The rest of them, no, a few of them. There's a few local election candidates in this book, actually. But there's countless people in the book and in Wally's other photographs. I don't know what became of them. And that's one of the things I really love about Wally's work. You think, well, where is he now? Or where is she now? In recent years, Wally is still snapping away. I bump into him on occasion on these massive, I wish they were massive, on these little demonstrations against austerity in this country. And I hope that there'll be a book in years to come of the years when the economy collapsed in Ireland and the demonstrations that Wally captured. Even outside the realm of politics, though, it kind of feels like we go around in circles when we look at some of these slogans on placards demanding US war planes out of Shannon or abortion rights in Ireland. But even beyond the realm of politics, there's a great importance to street photography. I think in recent years there's a massive interest in this. Arthur Fields, for example, the documentary that's about to come out, gives us a brilliant glimpse into ourselves and our own past. There's a bravery in photographers like Arthur Fields or Wally nowadays who are able to just walk up to total strangers and take a photograph of them. And I would not be able to do that. But the historians of the future would be very, very glad people like Arthur Fields and Wally Cassidy did exist, and they did have the balls to walk up to total strangers to take their photographs. Dublin has changed in some ways since these photographs are taken. In other ways it hasn't. You'd be forgiven for saying that there seemed to be more life in Smithfield back then than there is now. And Smithfield Square, which Wally captures in this book, is now called Smithfield Plaza, which sounds very fancy, but it didn't quite work out. Temple Bar is another great example. You look at Temple Bar at this time when there was so much hope for the area. The bus station had been defeated and McDonald's hadn't arrived. Dublin has changed in a lot of ways, and in other ways it hasn't. It's funny too that there are youth cultures in this book that if you wander to Central Bank on a Saturday, they seem to all be coming back. And things seem to go around and come back into fashion. So it's a wonderful moment in time captured. A lot of it still has a great contemporary relevance and a great modern feel. So I congratulate Wally on an absolutely incredible work, a very important work in the history of this city. And I think I speak for everyone here when I say I hope it's not the last book Wally Cassidy produces. So well done. Where's Gary gone?